So here's how I want to start. We have a general Muny email box where people send in all kinds of comments. And we got this today. Please send this email on to whoever needs to read it. Usually not a good start. I've been coming to Muny for over 55 years now. Always enjoy it. Season ticket holder and now guarantor. Through all of that, I have never emailed before. I just had to say what an outstanding performance last night it was in every way. The orchestra, sets, cast, everyone and everything so exceptional. John Riddle, 5 ellipses, ... Wow, all capital letters. I could have listened to him all night. The rest of the cast was so talented, but he connects on a personal level with even this 79-year-old woman. I had tears at one point. I want to see him every year in anything he is in. Good work, Muny. I drive 2 hours each way each week. Last night was so 6 O's worth it. Sincerely, Della K. Sullivan.
That's right.
So, yeah. And we've talked about it before. Your work really has an impact on people. I know you don't like to hear it.
It's okay. It's okay.
And that connection. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a performer and when you discovered this possibility for you, and also talk a little bit about your college years at the Muny.
So I was going to be an architect actually when I was in high school. And my sister is 3 years older than I am, and we grew up sailing. I grew up on the Great Lakes, and my sister was an all-American college sailor, and so I wanted to go to USC, and I wanted to be an architect, and I wanted to be on the sailing team. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I was always into music. I did theater, but then I kind of quit theater and music to do sports. I played soccer and basketball, and then my high school music teacher actually told me when I was I was a freshman or sophomore, he said, you don't have what it takes to do this, because his son went to the University of Cincinnati and kind of he went into the arts, and that's a whole other story for another event. And a couple years later, I started to get back into theater. I had auditioned for something in Cleveland, and I got a big part in Cleveland. And so I just started to do more theater, and I started singing, and I would enter these singing competitions at our show choir competitions, because I was in show choir, and our show choir was so bad, and our whole choir would go to these show choir competitions, and during the day there was a solo competition where you would sing you would sing a song from a musical, and it was a competition. And I kept winning these stupid competitions, and my choir had to stay. We got eliminated from the show choir competition, but they had to stay all night while I competed. And my teacher pulled me aside after one of those, and he said, I take it back. I think that you can do this. And so I told myself I'm going to audition for the best musical theater schools at the time, and if I don't get in to any of those schools, I'm gonna go be an architect. And I ended up getting into the University of Cincinnati, where my director's son went, it was all just a weird coincidence. And then, so I went to CCM, and my freshman year, everyone said, you have to go, everybody would go, we would drive out to St. Louis, and you would go to Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera, and you would go to the Muny and audition to try to be in the ensemble of these big shows. And can I tell the story?
Yeah.
Back in the day, we would go to some high school. I don't know which high school it was. St. Louis. We would go to St. Louis University, and there was I think 600 guys or something from all the colleges, and they would line us up in a group of 25, and everybody would be in the auditorium, and you would get up in these groups on stage, and you would go down the line, and you would sing the last 10 bars or whatever of On the Street Where You Live. I know the towering feeling, just to know somehow you are near. And that was it. And they would pull you out of the line, and that's how you would get the job at the Muny.
Yeah, we don't do it that way anymore.
We don't do it that way anymore. And so that first year, I got pulled out of that line, and Sue Greenberg called me on the phone, because I didn't have an agent back then. And she said, John Riddle, it's Sue Greenberg from the Muny, and we'd like to offer you 3 shows this year at the Muny season. And so that was my start at the Muny. And I came here And first of all, it was a big deal for a freshman. It was like, I was like, wait, really? I got the job? And that was a really transformative summer because I got my equity card. I was 19 years old. The first show I did was Annie here. Beth Level was Miss Hannigan, and I used to watch her, or I used to listen. I watched her on the Tony Awards. I was obsessed with the show called Drowsy Chaperone that she was in. And so that was just kind of the beginning of my education in theater, really. Like, I would not have had the success that I've had in my career so far if I hadn't started at the Muny. I really think that, because it forced you to you have to dive in so quickly, and you have to make choices, and you're on stage with Broadway professionals and the directors from Broadway and the choreographers, and the expectations are so high. And so it just taught me from the jump kind of how to do this, or at least a window into how to do this. And so this place is so special. Ooh, I will almost get a little bit emotional. When I came back last year, so anyway, I learned a lot while I was here. I worked here for the next 3 summers. They kept picking me out of the line. And I worked here for the next 3 summers, and then I moved to New York, and a bunch of my dreams came true. I got to be on Broadway a few times. And then you guys called me last year to come back and do chess, and to walk back onto the campus. Do you call it a campus? I don't know.
Sure.
To walk back onto the campus, it was like, it was like, I don't know, like my spirit ascended from my body, because it was like that little kid that was here when I was 19 doing Annie, and so much had been realized in those, however many years, almost 15 years it was. And then so now to sit here and do this show, like, I used to be way in the back, and now I'm way in the front. And it's just very, very, very special to me, and I love this place more than I can tell you. So it's just really a huge, huge privilege to be here. This place means so much to me.
We want to tell stories. Do you remember our Millie conversation, our Millie audition conversation when you were here? You remember this?
You might be able to tell it better.
So in 11, he's being a little modest. So your last summer here, the Muny was the first theater to do Little Mermaid after Broadway. And John...
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And John was Prince Eric.
Yeah.
So my first season...
Junior in high school.
Yeah.
Or in college.
Yeah. And my first year, I was doing Thoroughly Modern Millie, and I really wanted you to do Jimmy. And Mark Bruni was directing, and I knew you were coming, and we had all the sides ready, blah, 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 blah. And we went into a separate room, and there was a thing, and it didn't work out. And I pulled you aside, and we didn't know each other. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. And you were like, what? And I said, here is your challenge. You've been the most talented person in the room, so your teachers haven't given you everything you need.
It's true.
And you need to go to New York, get into an acting class and do that, because they have not, because you've just been able to do what they needed, and they attended to everybody else.
And guess what I did?
Do it.
I went.
Yeah.
I really went.
Right.
I had Mike's. I had that voice in my head, because I knew, because we did not learn how to. I remember that audition because we came in and I didn't even know what to do with the sides. Like, we hadn't learned that, and so I had to go into all these New York audition rooms and truly fall on my face so many times. And I was like, okay, wait, Mike said that thing. I have to figure this out, or else I'm not going to. This isn't going to work.
Yeah. But we kept track.
Yeah.
On the visit, and then you were in the Evita tour here, and I wasn't here, but you went on one night as Jay.
I did.
And you were like, hey, so there was sort of this one in John's. Yeah.
But thanks for that, Mike.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's talking about.
Yeah. But that's...
I forgot about that.
You see... it's one of the missions, the emerging talents. This is the place that, and we try to, it's very important to me, it's sort of this used word right now, the space, but, if I have one rule, it's no fear. Fear is the thing that gets in the way. Fear is what just destroys. And so we don't allow it, and everybody comes here, and you do what you can do, and then we put it together and give the gift and all that. And it was so beautiful watching you last year in chess, because, I mean, the mastery of everything that you had accomplished in that, whatever it's been, decade or something, was just stunning. And the other thing that was interesting in both, and this is what I want to turn to now, in both that show and this show, which are complex and complicated and a lot. I've never once seen you in the rehearsal room, the platform, kind of lose your cool. Like, I mean, externally.
No, I'm just not that guy. I don't know.
So how do you absorb in the rehearsal? Because these are big parts. What is your process? How do you prepare?
Well, luckily I have done, I think this is my 11th show here, so I know how fast it is. And so before I get here, like I spent the month of April by myself in my apartment in New York, teaching myself Les Mis, because if you come here, and normally in a musical you would show up on the first day and start learning the music then and memorizing it, and you have, you know, X amount of weeks to do it, but you can't do that here because it's so fast. And so talk about no fear. I know for myself, if I'm unprepared, if I don't know what I'm doing or saying or thinking as the character, then I'm going to be scared when the turntable starts moving and there's towers coming at you. So I just think, and I think one of the things I've learned is that lack of preparation is what causes fear typically. So if you haven't done the work on your own before you step into the room or onto the platform, then that's when the fear comes in. And so, I learn the show before I get here, so that when we step onto the platform and you have to move, whatever they tell you to do, you just go there, but you know all the inner workings, so you're not doing all that work in the 10 days that you have to put this giant show up.
Another anecdote, John as an amazing person, collaborator. So, I mean, we'll go back to chess, but it was extraordinary and masterful, and I just felt this audience connection with you. I knew I had this coming. The director, Seth, you knew, because John was the last person to play Raoul in Phantom of the Opera on Broadway before it closed, and Seth was kind of in that world. Totally in that world. And, great practitioners of the craft are specific. And directing a show is 90% casting. And I called Seth and I said, I want John. And he said, I love him, I've worked with him, and blah, blah, blah. I don't hear it. And Jim Moore, the music director, who said, like me, heard it. And so Seth, as the director, and this is where I have to respect that, he needs to see the whole thing to come here and do it in 12 days, right? He's got to have confidence. So I call John, and I say, here's where you're at. Will you go into a room with Seth and work with him vocally? Which is an ask, right? He's just dominated in chess. He's been on Phantom of the Opera, and you need me to go into a room? And because he knows these people, he knows what art is required. I mean, you said, oh yeah, of course, just have him call me. Like, you didn't even blink.
Well, what else was I gonna do?
Yeah. Well, no. There are people with not 1/10 of your talent, experience, or credits who would not have done that.
Well, I just think that, I don't know. I find that there's two types of people that do this, and there's people that, I really do believe this. There's two types of people that do this. There's the people that want to be famous and they want to like win all the awards and have the accolades. And then there's the people who, what Mike talks about all the time, which is why we do theater. And I haven't listened to Jack O'Brien's speech yet, but I need to. And I just find that if you want to do theater, then you do theater, and you come, if somebody needs to hear you sing Valjean, like, I'm going to take the train up and just sing Valjean to do it because I want to do theater. And so I'm not trying to win any awards or be famous, because I've never cared about that. Actually, I'm like repulsed by that. That's a whole other thing. But So I don't know. That's just how I think about it. And theater is a team activity. It's not about one person. It can be if you make it about one person, but it's a lot of people coming together, and that's what I think is interesting about it.
So in these last two parts, you have in both shows these specific grand moments where it's just literally you and the audience. You and the orchestra and the audience.
Yes.
What is that like?
Try not to think about it too much.
Really?
Yeah, because then it gets scary. I don't know. You have to I think, especially this one, this is Chess was like a walk in the park, kind of. I hate to say.
No. Why was it a walk in the park?
It was just vocally, it's not challenging.
Okay.
This is like the hardest thing I've ever done. Like I'm not humble brag, but I haven't taken voice lessons in New York City because I can't afford it since college. And so I called my friend Sally and I was like, Sally, I need voice lessons and for this because I just needed somebody to help me figure out how to do this because I've never sung anything quite like this. This part requires you to from all the way down here and screaming all the way to and it's so naked and so exposed, and so I don't like to be. I usually don't have to think about the singing, and in this, I sometimes have to think about the singing, and so I try to just think about the moment and usually if you just act the moment and what is happening and be in the moment, the voice follows it. So.
Well, that is happening. That is happening. I mean, so Anthem in chess, but sort of segueing here, one of my favorite moments in chess was you and Bosk, Mountain Duet.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I don't know if you remember it, but I'm not going to attempt to sing it, but there was a thing where I'm up on the mountain, the two of you, and you both went up vocally, and the stage turned at the thing, and you both climbed up, and you hit a note. The song wasn't over, and literally every night, the audience was so excited, they would burst into applause in the middle of the song, and you two had to cover with a laugh to get to the music. You had to come up with something because it was that.
Yeah.
Like that sense of height. So you and Jessica were brilliant scene partners, and you've got scene partners throughout Les Mis that you've got to connect with, including an amazing 10-year-old girl.
Yeah.
How does that change your focus on stage?
Well, I got to work with Chita Rivera one time, and she taught me something really important, which is that you take all of the good stuff. She always used to say, I suck. And she had to clarify by saying, I suck up all the good stuff from everybody else around me on stage. And I've never forgotten that because you take what the other person is giving you and you use that. Kate, who plays Little Cosette, oh my God, there's no acting involved because she's so adorable and so present. She's such a great little actress. And you just take all of that. You take all of Jordan is such a fantastic scene partner because he is just so alive, and you just take all of that good stuff from people.
Yeah.
Live in the moment. I don't know. Like this.
You're the guinea pigs. This is the first time we're doing this. We seem mostly on time. Questions. I'm going to take any question. Anyone? Because I'm not that interested. Yes.
Yeah. So you said you took lessons to prepare for this. What type of a thing did you have to focus on? And was there a question in your mind whether you could achieve it, whether you were physically able to hit the mark, and that forced you to go take lessons?
Yeah, when Mike called me and said, he was like, we want you to play Valjean. And I was like, do you have the right number? Truly.
Yeah, I did.
Truly. And so did I knew I could do it. But I didn't know if, you can do anything once. But to do it sustained throughout a whole week. Also, it's outdoors, which is its own thing. And there's no day off for 16 days, is that right? And so it's just it is a physical challenge because your vocal cords are a muscle, and so it's like going to the gym every day and lifting as heavy as you can every single day with no day off. That's what's happening here. And so I went in my lessons, there was just like 3 things in this show that are tricky, everything else is fine. But I just wanted to check in physically, because when somebody else watches you, like a teacher that knows what they're talking about, they can watch you sing something and say, oh, your jaw, it's something as little as like your jaw is coming forward, or you're not taking a big enough breath, or whatever that is, or tilt your head like that, and it will make it easier. So just from a technician standpoint, yeah.
The Les Mis crowds all week, I think it's an educated crowd. They know why they're here. A lot of them have come here because they're passionate about this. So talk about what it's like to stand on stage and look up at 10,000 plus people who are really educated about a show. And I assume you felt the waves of appreciation all week long.
Well, that is also scary because like people are, there's that thing where they're like, okay, sing, bring them home. And so like that, and so you like gotta sing, bring them home, I guess. But at the same time, like that's what we're talking about. Like you have to kind of throw all that stuff out the door. But what is so fun, like last night, the full moon. I think it's actually full tonight.
Yeah. But
the moon was out behind the audience, and I just sang all the songs to the moon last night because there was a lot of talking to God, and like what is better? Where else can you sing a song to the moon? So like Mike said the other night, he's like, "Are you singing to the moon?" I said I sure was. So it's thrilling though. I mean, like I don't really know how to describe that. To have all those people looking at you is, I don't actually know how I feel about that, other than it's a thrill.
Yes, last question.
You mentioned three tricky things. What are
Okay, so the last note to bring him home, because you sing this whole song that's like this, and your vocal cords, they call it having thick cords, your vocal cords look like this, and they're going like this together, and then the writers ask you to sing this teeny tiny little note that's really high that require thin vocal cords, so you have to like, it's a whole thing. That note is hard. He goes 2, 4, 6, 0, 1, which no human should ever have to sing that note. I don't know why they would have like that. And then the opening prologue is just the whole thing is just kind of tricky if you don't pace it out. If you like start, there's a lot of like yelling and like it can be very screamy if you let it get away from you. But that's my favorite part of the show. So if the show ended right there, right?
Well, that's where the interview ends.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And he's going to go get ready for his show.
Thanks for being
John has to go, but feel free to grab snacks, have a drink. We'll get everybody upstairs to the show. And he has to go like prepare for fights and all these things.